over. I'm just getting set up to stream, so welcome to anyone who's joining me. Getting comfy, choosing the right colours, choosing the right layer. And choosing the right brush size. Yep, that seems small enough. We'll do it a little bit bigger because we actually want to get some solidity in there if we want, and we can still do small stuff. And I'm going to be trying a great big bison rider, although I'm probably not going to put the bison in there with him. He is a self-described large man who likes his food. So, unlike the other people, we aren't going to go with slim lines. We're deliberately going with big lines, big shoulders, huge pecs, paunchy look. But he's also muscly because he's active. So I'm going to try and get this down as the knee there, have him kind of in a running way. Yeah, that's a bit sideways. That's more like it. That one bent, that one a bit more back, and that gives us the chance to play with things. And he's coming forwards, so we've got one leg down like that, one leg like that, shoulders here, head there, and I think we want to have him swinging an axe, and the axe goes all the way over like that. So maybe it's actually coming out more towards us, and that gives us sort of two hands. So this arm's going to be round there, and this arm's going to be kind of more straight out that way, and that'll give us sort of a sense of his bulk as well. We need to make sure that we get actual bulk into here, because right now we've got a really short arm there, but let's have that. I think the lower axe angle from there is actually good, so we'll try that again. Let's get the axe downwards, which means moving that arm that way, and then it's suddenly a shorter arm because we don't want it stretched all the way out. Yeah. Scribble away all the bits we don't want. If you logged in, please do feel free to say hi. Okay, so we've got the arm kind of comes down that way. It is folded up over itself, but it's going to be kind of folded up from there. And then that gives us our bulk. And his hand wraps over like that. Whereas this way, he's holding it the other way. So we're seeing the hand wrap under that way. Little thumb there. May or may not need a little thumb there. Probably a little thumb there because he's just been killing people. That's it. Now the bloke fits into his armour, as he puts it, like a jelly into a mould. So that means creating armour that he can fit in. Have a great big beard because he's a big bison rider. And again, I'm not attempting realism here, so it doesn't matter that he's got like the huge cartoony look going. He's not attempting realism either. I mean, look at these horns on his favourite helmet. They do detach, not for battle, but so that he can drink out of them. So if his beard's going to be about that big, we actually need to have a little cutout in it so that you can see him shouting. And then we need brows under there. Normally I wouldn't go even this far in a sketch, so I'm probably going too far. Let's move the opacity down a bit in that layer because I went in too heavy, and we'll move to a black layer and we'll start doing some actual drawing now that we've got everything in the right place, or at least in approximately the right place. First thing that strikes me is that this is kind of a weedy axe right now, so we'll make sure that it is an actual solid thing. And if that's going to be the shaft, then our foreshortening, we probably want to have the axe coming in at about that size. So, and it actually starts from inside, or at least alongside the axe shaft, and it's not in itself just sticking out on the edge of it. So these are overlapping and overlayered things. And my more usual cartoon, I'm just going to turn this so if you're seasick, look away now. Whee! Upside down. My more normal cartoons will have people kind of standing in a nice quiet pose, maybe dramatic arms, and this is full of overlayered stuff. So I have delved too deep, kind of overlayered, because I haven't actually done this sort of thing in a while. And even though we have foreshortened, and even though we've got lines coming in, we've got to, whoops, I didn't want that, I wanted to zoom out a little and turn. We've got to take into account that the shapes stay the same, so I've widened the back a bit by accident, and that's okay. I can live with that. There we go, we got an axe. There's our centre line, yes. So he's gonna have the big moustachey bit. I just know that he's a big moustache guy. And then big shouty mouth. It's always nice to do traditional art, and then it's always nice to get back to a computer and have something where Control Z actually makes a difference. Okay, so we've got very little room for the nose there, which means we've got to actually treat that as a secondary mass again. Get the nose over in front of stuff. Which means that unusually in one of these pictures I actually have a light source. Now earlier we went light so that we could do this, we went quite small with the brush, and then we got too big again. We're just doing outlines on this layer, and I need to resist the temptation to do all of the detail, because a lot of the detail actually gets put in the colour. What this is definitions. I need a right hand curve for this, so yank. You can tell that Greenland Gibbon's like the best wood carver ever, or famously the best, which doesn't actually mean the best, but you know, all sorts of scroll work and stuff. You can tell he was right-handed. You can tell what he didn't like doing, and you can basically always tell when artists are, and for that reason I often turn things upside down, move things around, or just plain lie by mirroring things digitally. And it's always a good idea to attempt to mirror. Yeah, which one do I prefer? I think I prefer the one on the right, so I think that isn't where I wanted that. And they do come in to about there. So he's a storm bull, he's definitely a bull, and we just won't remind him that actually the devil has horns as well. The very thing that he religiously fights against would recognise this silhouette. I mean, obviously it would then go, oh shit, it's storm bull, but nevertheless, the devil has horns. Little beast rune in there. Okay, and onto some pretty significant armour. Again, we want it to be chunky, we want it to look solid. Rajar is someone that will last a winter, but he's definitely the sort to have pectorals and then just fit into them. So we'll give him the I have muscle look, and he just, yeah, he does have muscle, but he has more of a keg than a six-pack. And it's been shifted slightly because he's running. Now we've got a lot of movement and action in the legs, and if we don't keep it up, then we could end up with something that just doesn't do justice to our sketch. And so I'm making sure as I go along to put in the various stretch lines and stuff like that. Now his elbow probably has to go all the way out there. Bring that line in. Under ordinary circumstances, I'm quite content to cheat and to use the line tool and go, is that a line? Is that a line? Yeah, they're both close enough. B for brush. Rah. Yeah, his body's a bit long, given that I'm going for a cartoonish look there. Like, we don't want to make him too heroic. Actually, I kind of like that double stretch there. But we'll have his clothes come over the top. And not quite. Yeah. If I want to have that there, I've got to get rid of that. Do some more squinting at it. We'll leave that. It's okay. It's still got some energy in it. Remember, he's big. Like, you don't understand how big some people are until you properly meet them, and then you think, oh yeah, you're big, and then they stand up and you realise that actually they're 6'8", and that you have seriously miscalculated. I want to make his fingers cute, and I also want to make them powerful. So that means just not making them slender and going a bit solid on the lines, like a bit straight on the lines. The reason that even when I'm getting down to details I'm leaving the sketch on is that I'm going to be using the sketch as colouring and detail. I wonder, do I want more armour? I want probably some kind of tie or armband or bracelet. Like, this bloke has been known to run naked after chaos, and then we had to go, you know what, wait, we'll bring you your armour. So I'm liking the effect of having this as kind of clothes, but he does wear more armour than this, and he actually wears more armour than that round there as well. I should be, at least to some degree, true to it. Plus, if I put him in all of his armour, he looks even more solid. And that's a thing I actually really like. So, at the very least, he gets greaves and vambraces. And that arm comes down from there. No matter how much I like this, I still need to put the elbow where the elbow belongs. Yeah, you know, if that comes running at you, it does ruin your day. I can actually rebuild that line as a vambrace and have this shape in bronze and still actually have an elbow that makes sense. So that's quite cool. Does mean I've got to match it. So let's pretend that the elbow goes that way, that I always meant to do this. If the vambrace stops there, the axe can't stop there because that's an awkward thing. And then that means that he's got his wrist cocked. But we don't need to worry a huge amount because, again, it's all cartoony. If we wanted to do this properly, we could take a lot of time and a bit of money, get ourselves a stock photo that isn't one generally available. There are lots and lots of stock photos that are really good for posers and for practicing from, and I've used quite a few myself, but when it comes down to something that clients want that's new and unique, I won't do that, because I know I myself will go, ooh, that comes from Century Stock, or ooh, I've drawn that pose. And you know, if it's not me, someone will somewhere, and I just can't stand that idea if I'm doing something for a client. Okay, now here, there we go, we've got a thigh, and the thigh should be massive. But it comes in there, and then moves over, I think. Don't know, I'm fussing a bit much and I should probably stop fussing. But if we stop fussing now, we probably end up going to our next layer. Oh, you know what? He needs way more beard than that. You can't have a bison warrior getting his beard mocked. Alright, colour layer. And as you may have noticed, the colour layer is... no. The colour layer is below the black layer. What you got to do now, a shed load of bronze. This is kind of lazy non-metallic metallics here. I used to paint a lot of figures and I used to go, ooh yeah, let's get the metal right, and take all the angles and do it really slowly and paint the highlights in and oh, I love digital so much. No, don't like that colour. You know what? I can just undo it. Like that solidity? It's not like taking acrylic paint off. I can put in bronze colours. I can do a back bevel and it's all nice angles. Plus it saves my palette for me, which is kind of like picking up a pencil. Like, ooh, this is a familiar one. I've got several watercolour sets and some of them are way busier than this, and they've got lots of pre-made pools of colour that I can reconstitute, but if I haven't used them for a while, then remembering which is which becomes an absolute nightmare. So I like the fact that this just saves my palettes for me. And I don't have to remember, is that Engineer's Blue? What does Engineer's Blue do again? And it's called that because it's a really finely ground pigment, and you can put it between two metal plates in a thin layer of oil, rub the plates together and then take them apart, and you can see where they're thin and where it's thick, and that means you know where to grind. Even though these two things are bronze and they're next to each other, I definitely want to do them as separate patches, because to be honest, in this I'm probably not going to be doing a slightly brighter colour coming forward. I'm just doing it as flatly selected colours, but this is going to be along that way, definitely. Oh, you fatty Rajar, I love you. My character actually really loves him because he's obviously so successful, and because he's a big stand-up bloke and will come into a fight on her side, and she would come into a fight on his side, and they would get into terrible trouble together. And I know this because it's happened a lot. So I'm building the direction on this, and that means that you'll get the same crib when I come along here, build the direction this way. You'll kind of know what you're looking at. That line is now sadly an error. I'll move that just a little bit further up. Make them both pink, because we don't mind exaggerating size with this bloke, because exaggerating size gives us exaggerated solidity, and he is all about the exaggerated solidity, and that gives us way more room to put in those rays. Okay, that's probably all of his bronze. Too dark, too deep, but I want something there. No one in this series that I'm drawing actually has any serious face, so I'm not worried about that. But what I am worried about is he's dark skinned and he generally wears bison leather or bison hide a lot, so I'm not sure what colour to do that or put face in first. Face, hands, beard. was too directional with that. Like, wondering have I put the opacity down, but the thing is I haven't. It's just the brush that I'm working with. There we go, a little bit smaller, and then I can have detail. And by detail I mean little thin scribbly bits, not huge big scribbly bits. Face is more solid than that, so I can afford to go more solid on the hand. Yeah, so that's kind of my problem, that a lot of the colours are going to get lost and I'm not yet quite sure how to deal with it. One way to deal with it is just to leave in the blue layer, and I often do that. But beardy bloke. Oh, that's a good grin. I'm liking that grin from him there. Although I think I probably need to make it actually a mouth smile. Yeah, if that's coming from it for me, I'll be worried. Boots, grab a brown. Mostly I'm giving people sandals, but I'm not doing sandals in this degree of foreshortening. I use sandals to solve problems, not to make them. I'm trying to shape, and I don't want to shape, I just want to colour. That's fine. Colour is only really there to assist the lines, and the lines are only really there to assist the colour. I was a bit wrong before, it wasn't quite all the bronze, because I said I'd do this in bronze. You know what? The guy has absolutely no sense of taste at all, and I think that if he just looted a temple, he would be happy wearing stolen purple stuff. No sense of taste. I mean, he drinks fermented bison milk. Yep, and that's actually so over the top that it's going well together. Change angle, because we want to get our lines giving us solidity. And the short ones there will actually give us some shadow. Might be too much, I might have to undo that. Yeah, those ones are too much. But those ones probably aren't. And then this doesn't really need an angle, although it needs to be not so shambolic. It doesn't need an angle because it's not coming forward towards us, so it's not so important. So it just needs to have enough colour on it to compete with the others. There we go. Really pale wood there, and as I'd feared, the pale wood does absolutely no favours to the bronze. If we do a dark wood, it gets muddled up with his hands instead, so I'm going to go even more pale. And then at least you can see that it is different from the bronze. Okay, if I were chaotic and that were coming for me, I'd be very scared indeed. I can do that more efficiently because it's just a random shape. To where else I want to delete, and also delete that. Control Shift A. Now, alright, now that it's got more colour, I'm kind of liking it a little bit more. I don't need the blue in there. I like to be able to leave it, but if I'm going to make an interesting painting, I want it to look interesting with the black on as well, which means, or with the blue out off, which means going in harder on the black and all the things I want to stick up and stick out. So, you know, his hands coming round there, for example. Okay, the reason I didn't do it was because I didn't define that hand well in the first place. Shut up. I know what I meant. One thing I really miss from GIMP is you should put a dot down there and another one down there and have them join. But Critter is so much better than GIMP in so many ways that I can't really complain, and there probably is a shortcut and I just haven't looked for it and found it yet. So at some point I will, and if you do happen to know whatever the Critter shortcut is for putting in a line, let me know. Drop me, as it were, a line. See what I did there? I mean, I see what I did there, and I'm a bit ashamed. Because I want him to be cartoonish and short and brutal, I'm giving him hands like that without a raise in the middle, instead of hands like that with a slightly longer finger, because that way his hand is a simple shape to understand, and that means it kind of comes in as funnier. You don't have to think about it to go, ooh, that's a big solid fist. Swirly, because that just needs to be stronger. Unswirly shortly. And they all need to be stronger because they need to agree with each other. And that needs to be definitely a step change. So work out which line is correct here. I don't think either of those are quite correct. I think we want something basically in the middle between the two. So it looks like it's got a curve. Well, I just redrawn one of them, so now we found out which one was correct. leave these lines relatively thin, but whenever we've got different colours going over each other, we probably want to have a relatively strong line. Probably, not always, not necessarily. Like, if you could say always, then my job would be considerably easier. We're going for folds in the cloth, because even though he's chubby, the folds give us some drama and some movement. I wonder. Yeah, so that's actually, as we go along, we are improving the drawing, although we've got heavier lines over there. Having said it was only colours that I was keeping apart, I then went in heavy on the shirt. So perhaps what I meant was I don't like these lines and I want to improve them. Ah, there you go. Make them a little bit sharper, and suddenly it doesn't matter that they're heavy, because suddenly they're in the right place. I'm going to be streaming some live play of RuneQuest tomorrow, you know, because otherwise I just get very, very bored, as opposed to a bit bored at home. And I'm now very tempted to have them meet with a screaming, raging Stormbull. They're relatively new to the world, so they may not, out of character, have experienced many Stormbulls before. And it's always a delight and surprise to be able to introduce new people to new things. I mean, we like making new friends, and I have a particular Stormbull I like very much. Granshi the Stormbull. He definitely didn't burn down Wilmskirk because they refused him service at a bar. For one thing, bars aren't really very Bronze Age. It would have been some kind of taverna with street food. Probably. Alright, so I've done that with relatively simple colours, that's cool. I have a bit of a problem here. I think I probably need to put in some bronze, put in a single line of the greaves there. Because I think the purple and the brown are both relatively dark, and they're not contrasting well, whereas if I have that, I think that contrasts better. It's a bit noisy, but hey. Basically at this point I'm down to drawing decorations on things. Swirly, swirly. Rajar's earth person, so I'll give him an earth rune on his axe. He got his lovely axe broken recently by chaos. I mean, he got severely broken as well, but he got better and his axe didn't. I've just done his skin very slightly wrong, I think, but never mind. We'll call it skin highlights. All the edgy bits. There we go. I could have done that a bit quicker. I fussed a little bit. I've paused here and there. And now I'm going to keep on fussing and tidying it up, because even though it's cartoony, it'll be funnier and with more clarity of line. So I'm just erasing bits we don't want. think I probably want to call that one there, because I don't have anything else to do with it. So we'll put our blue back. Don't really like the blue effect under everything, but it does mean that we get the words gesture drawing back, so you can see what that's for. And actually we'll have this back, and then I'll just delete the blue. Of course, if I were on the correct layer, that would be helpful. There. That is Rajar. Took me about 45 minutes, including messing around and deciding what to do. And I'm now off to show it to him. So thank you people for keeping me company, and I'll see you sometime soon.